Let's take a look at some API responses that come back from Front's API. If you remember, we set up the list inboxes API request earlier in the course, and this API endpoint returns all the inboxes for a Front company. So we've got this set up in Postman already. When we click send, we will, based on the documentation, expect to get back a response that's an array of inboxes. So within this results array, we're going to get all the inboxes that belong to this company, and we're going to get things back like the ID, the name is private, and some other features of that inbox. They're all going to be returned in JSON format, which you can see a better example of here. And it'll just tell us a little bit about each inbox. So in fact, now that we've seen the response here, that's exactly what we see. We see a results array, and if we start scrolling down, we start seeing the properties that belong to each inbox. For example, the ID, the name of that inbox, whether it's private or a shared inbox. And then if you keep scrolling down, you'll see another inbox here, and you can keep scrolling down and you'll see more inboxes and so on. So another thing that you'll note is that we've got this response status of 200. This is one of the most common successful response statuses you'll get, and it means that everything went through okay and that a response body was returned. You can see here in the docs that you should expect a 200 response. You will also sometimes see other responses. For example, you might see a 204 response. A 204 response is also successful, but it means that no response body is returned for that endpoint, which is okay. Some endpoints do not return actual responses. They just tell you that things went through okay. So, and if you make any errors, for example, let's say that we made a mistake in our URL and we had a typo in here, you're going to get a different response, which is going to give you an error message. So we can test that out. So that says 404 not found. And that's because it doesn't know where this URL is. It doesn't exist. So if you get an error message like that, you know that you might have messed something up in the URL. Now that we go back to our successful response, we can test some of the other requests that we set up. So let's grab this specific ID from the first inbox that returns in this list. And if you remember, we set up this get inbox API request as well, which required a path parameter with a specific inbox ID. So this API request, which is set up here, if we give it a specific inbox ID, what we'll see is that when we send this request, we're going to get back information about only that specific inbox instead of all the inboxes in front. So we got the 200 response status okay again. And in this case, we've got one inbox returning with the information about that one inbox that we were getting information from. So we can't keep scrolling down. That's it. So now let's look at creating an inbox. So we also set up this API request earlier in the course. So let's look at what that might look like. So here we've got a post request. Since it's no longer just retrieving information, it's creating something new. We've got the URL set up correctly, and we know that we need to pass a name for that example inbox. And if we go back to the docs, the response is going to be a 204. So we're not going to get a response body. What we're going to get is simply an acknowledgement that what we did was correct and went through in the system successfully. So let's test this out. Okay, and we actually got a 201 back, which seems like potentially there was an error in the docs, which you'll sometimes see, but we did get a response back with that particular inbox that was created. So this new inbox was created as example inbox, and it has an ID. And actually, this makes a lot of sense. Like a 204 would not have returned information. So this is a correction that we need to make in our docs actually. But we now have this inbox ID for the newly created inbox, and we go back to get inbox, we can replace this path parameter with the one we just created. And now we can see that we can get back information for that specific new inbox which we created as an example inbox.